All right, I just want to do a sound check since I had an issue yesterday before I get started and speak for 15 minutes. All right, let me just see. My sound is working okay. My mic is picking up correctly. Sound check since I had an issue. Okay, perfect. Okay, awesome. All right, so welcome everyone. Hi, Donna Nelson here. Welcome to episode 65 of Rooted in Wisdom, a daily dose of Donna. Today, in this episode, I'm going to be talking about why we look to others to fill our inner void. So, this has everything to do with our purpose in life, with living fulfilled, and with aligning our values with our actions and our beliefs. So, to start with, this is really a bit of a self inquiry. So, thinking about what do you value? So, there's really two questions that I'm going to ask here that I want you to think about and answer to yourself, or you could put it in the chat as well. When we think about what do I value, or what are your core values? And while they're two different things, most of us kind of cross them over because we don't know how to discern or separate the two out. So, whether I'm doing a vision board workshop, or I'm doing my Breakthrough to Wholeness program, or working one on one with my coaching clients, any of those things, the core of all of the work and figuring out who I am, where am I going, why am I in this world kind of thing, how do I fill this emptiness inside of me, how do I feel more fulfilled, more authentic, whatever those things are that often we're looking to say fix, or looking to identify, or looking to get rid of, or pull more of something in, whatever that is, right? We're looking, or want something to pull into us, or we want something to push out of us. It all comes down to what we value. So, did you answer the question yet of what you value? If you think about what is the first thing that popped into your mind, these things are always intuitive because they're such a core part of us. What is that one thing that jumped out at you, were like, I value? And then think about, now that you have that, what is that void in your life? And again, probably the first thing that came to mind. What is that one thing that is a void, that feels like it's the missing piece? And do these two intersect? Are these two exactly the same thing? So, possibly they're the same thing. Because what happens is, for I think for most of us, and I see this when I'm doing my breakthrough, I see it when we're sketching this out with my one-on-one clients, is that, we're like, okay, well, let's figure out where we're going, because the truth is, we make decisions from what we value. And we can't figure out our purpose, and we can't make good decisions in our business or our personal life or whatever if we aren't clear on what we value. I just saw this show up again today in a conversation with someone, and the conversation was a bit wishy-washy, and it was like they're changing their mind through the very short conversation, and I'm like, this is someone who doesn't have a strong value base. Like, you're making decisions not based on a solid foundation of values. And that's what can often happen, is that, when we lack purpose, we lack the clarity of our values, and we feel that inauthentic, right? We're just not, we can't be ourselves because there's always something that's, making us, feel either judging ourselves or being judged by others. So we adapt to, accommodate the environment, if you will. And we look to others then to fill these gaps or voids within us. So that's why it's important to know what our own values are, right? And thinking about, what do I value? So let's say maybe you have a value of honesty, or your highest value is love, or maybe your highest value is, connection, or something in those areas, right? Like whatever those core values might be for you. Pick something. Well, don't pick something. Like what came to mind? It was the first thing that came to your mind. You weren't even thinking, and it jumped out. So, and often what I see is that the thing that we're also missing in our life, that void, right? That thing maybe that we even resent, is that very thing that we value the most. See, the hierarchy of values in our life is derived from the hierarchy of the voids in our life as a result of survival strategies. So I always say our needs. So in my work, it's like, what are the values? What are the needs? And once we figure those things out, we can figure out the direction of what we're going, and know we have that foundation of which to make decisions from. When we have these important needs that are not being met, then we start making our decisions based on the values of those needs as a matter of survival. So even if it's dysfunctional, we will behave in a way to get those needs met according to that value, whatever that is. So our values are derived from our voids, as I said, either through resentment or through admiration and desire. So when we think about what are these things that we value, maybe we value prestige, or luxury, or something like that. Courage, even. So it's often, though, something that is not within us that we value that. So it's a desire or a resentment where this comes from. So how is that showing up for you? Is there a connection there? Maybe you used two different words, but you're really realizing that they're actually the same thing, and that they're deeply, connected to each other. So here's the thing. When we fulfill those voids within us, not outside of us, then we get to move from this survival, this needs-based, unfulfilled needs, to then thriving. So what we value most are all the voids that we've had in our life that have made us feel empty. And that when we balance those within ourselves, not utilizing external forces, people, places, things, no materialistic things, not having that person, or that experience, whatever, that's not going to fill the need. The needs always have to be filled within us, within the values within us. Here's the interesting thing that that will happen as well. So we fulfill this need, this value, right? This void now. However, that's, you've resolved that within yourself. And now the interesting thing is, as we continue to do our healing work, doing this inner work, our values change. So it's always fun as I'm doing my own personal growth and realizing that, but it's also fun to see it. People that I coach for a long time, or maybe we take a break and they come back and do coaching, or they come back through my Breakthrough to Wholeness program year after year. It's so amazing to see the internal growth of the individual, and what they may have valued the first year, by the second or the third year, these things change. They're no longer a value. Why? Because they've fulfilled that void. That was the big value that they had, but also the void. So So we fill the void, we balance that within ourselves, and then we have more fulfillment, and then our values change. It's not like our value system changes, right? It's what we value then changes because we no longer have to satisfy that. You might have something different. We're a work in progress constantly, right? So curious how there was alignment between those two for you. What you think about this idea of our hierarchy of values in our life is derived from our hierarchy of voids in our life, and as a result of actually being survival strategies and unfulfilled needs. That's all for tonight. That's episode 65. See you tomorrow.